All right. Get this here. I just shared it in the group. Better. Okay. I think we are good to go. Hi, Marta. How are you? How are things over there? Marta, say it that way. How are things over there in Poland? Good to see you. I don't know what the time difference is. I think you guys are like 6 hours past us, if I'm not mistaken. I know for a lot of European countries, it's that way. But Australia is totally different. I have friends in Australia and I don't even know what time it is over there right now. I teach a couple of them piano and it's really difficult trying to schedule. It gets very confusing with the time change. So I know they always watch me after the fact. So good. I'm glad to hear. Hey, Raquel. Yes. What trip? I've had so many this summer, but we are all tripped out. Like it sounds funny when I say that. I don't mean on drugs. I mean actual trips. My husband told me I had just gotten home, I think Saturday evening from this latest trip to Missouri. And he was like, we really need to take the kids to Lake Michigan before summer's over. And I was like, listen, I'm all tripped out and I don't mean on drugs. I mean, I am just done with trips for a while. Can we just like stay around home for a while? So I know by the time we get to the end of summer, I'm always to this point. So I'm ready to be back on schedule and I am. I'm teaching tomorrow. I have a very full fall. I have 40 students, 40 piano students, and I keep having students that want to be added. And I don't mind adding siblings, but because I added a couple siblings this year, I went up in students. And so I do it all on 3 days. I refuse to do more than 3 days a week. And so I have some very early days. I'm starting at 8 a.m. most days, which means I need to get up probably by 5 a.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So it's going to be at a little bit of adjustment from like the free days of summer. So we're back on schedule now, but I have been craving that. I am a type A personality morphed into type C. So I have the type C part of me loves just, they love it. I love summer because I can basically do what I want when it comes to schedules, but my type A part loves the schedule and loves being on routine and schedule. And so I'm like a mix about those. I'm glad to be back to schedule. So yeah, definitely, definitely. It's past 10 p.m. Okay, that's what I thought. I knew it was like a 6 or 7 hour difference. It's 3:12 p.m. here. So, all right. But all the times that I've had driving this summer, I've been driving here, there, and everywhere. A lot of it was dropping Chloe off for camp and different things like that. So she's back from camp. And even though she will be helping out with a retreat this weekend, I think, but she's pretty much done. So it's getting back into the swing of things, having her home again, even though she just applied for a job at a daycare. So if she gets that, she's not going to be home as much. But I was listening to a lot of different podcasts. I like listening to people that call in with different life problems. And I was just being told yesterday by one of my friends that I should be a life coach. And I pretty much already am. I have women emailing me all the time, and I just don't have the credentials. Like I've been working with people for the last 24 years, being in ministry, but I don't have the professional credentials behind my name. So eventually I might try to take some kind of course to do with counseling, just so I can get a bachelor's or an associate's or something so that I will have the credentials behind my name. But I just have life experience. So I was being told that I should do this. And I love listening to other people that you would consider counselors or life coaches and their different podcasts and things like that. I prefer like real life stories, real life problems versus like sitcoms or dramas. I don't really have time for sitcoms or dramas, but when I'm driving, I will listen to different podcasts on my phone. So I was listening to this podcast and I listened to a call in by a woman who had had her life planned. And then she found herself with a surprise pregnancy at age 40. In the call, she was saying that she hated the way her life had turned out. She had planned to be done having kids by 30. Her and her husband had both planned that. And 2 times that had been upended, resulting in 2 more children. So they had planned on 2 children. They ended up with 4. Now, obviously, I don't have this mindset. I have 8 children and I've had 11 pregnancies. So when I went into marriage, we both went into marriage wanting we said 10 kids. And since, we have 8 Earthside and 2 or 3, I think one of them was a chemical pregnancy. I got a positive, it said pregnant. And then a couple days later, I miscarried or, started my cycle. So I do consider that in one of my miscarriages, but my other 2 were very traumatic, missed miscarriages. So I know I have at least 2 or 3 waiting for me in heaven, but that's not my life. I'm just telling it from her experience. And we all face different things like this regarding other circumstances in our life. Okay. So she had planned on 2, her and her husband had, they ended up with 4. She loved her children, but she had been raising babies for 20 years. I totally get it. I'm there. And was tired and also feeling like she couldn't focus on herself or what she loved to do. She felt like she was a second-class citizen with nothing to offer society, whatever. This made me so sad. And I was happy to hear the advice that was given. First off, it was stated that being a mom is so important, that she's not a second-class citizen, and that we are contributing to society. Where some people build houses or companies or jobs or careers, we are literally building human beings. Also, I don't fall for the lie that you can't live life to its fullest while also raising children. My husband and I have built this incredible life, all while raising kids and dragging them alongside behind us. We've taken them everywhere with us. They've been given opportunities that many other children haven't been given. And it's not because we are rich and loaded. They don't have a silver spoon in their mouth. We're not loaded. We don't have all this money. We don't come from money. Things are tight. It's because I've learned to do things very cheaply, and we are wise with our money. Some spend money on fancy things, cars, perfumes, makeups, jewelries, while we spend our money on bills and experiences, memories, trips done on a dime, travel done very wisely and planned out. We've made choices in our life so that we can fully live in each moment of each day. And we've created a wonderful life together. We choose the life that we live. We choose to live the way we do. I want to help and encourage you today to live life to its fullest and choose how you want your life to be. And I loved what he told the caller, because he said, you have created this narrative in your head that's just not true. You have chosen not to live life to its fullest, and he's not talking about like abandoning your kids and just going out and partying. No, but we do make choices in our life, and we do choose how we're going to spend our time. We do choose how we're going to spend our money. We choose how we're going to spend, if we're going to have hobbies or not. We make those choices. So I did love the advice that he gave her. So this got me thinking on this subject, and I just threw this outline together, I don't know, like an hour or 2 ago, and it got me thinking, and I was like, this is the theme of my life. If I could tell women anything, it would be, I'm not someone who sits around just moaning and complaining. I am a doer. Okay. So if I see a problem that needs addressed in my marriage, with my kids, in my church, in my friendships, if I see a problem that needs to be addressed, I address it. I do something about it. I don't sit around complaining about it. I don't sit around wishing what could be. I do something about it. If I want to travel, I make that happen. If I want to have a hobby, I make that happen, And so if I want to make side income and teach piano lessons, I've made that happen. And now my piano studio is just bursting from the seams. You start small with a vision and a dream, but you make those things happen. I've often said that if I had not chosen to get married young, have children, raise them, be a stay-at-home mom, I would be the CEO of a company, because I'm a person of action. I'm not a person who just says stuff or talks or, just sits around moaning what her life could have been. No, I make my life what I want it to be. And so this is this is a passion of mine, to just really impart this idea of living life to the fullness in the moment. Don't sit around wishing for what could be, or, bemoaning the facts that aren't. And I think about women that can't have children. I've known some women that can't have children, and while they're sad, they take that and they do things that, they want. Like, so for example, I know a single girl, she's always wanted to be married. And her husband has never come along. She's not the perfect guy is not coming along for her. And I'm not even saying perfect guy. I'm saying the perfect guy for her, right? So she's not sitting around with this checklist of unattainable expectations. He's just never come along. So that's not what God has for her right now. She's always wanted to get married and have children. Well, she could either sit around being sad about the fact that Mr. Right hasn't come around, or she could do something and accomplish something with her life. So what she has done is she's become a foster mom. And she is giving a couple kids, I think she has 2 kids right now. She's given a couple kids a better life than what they had coming from an abusive home. Well, obviously, I think it's ideal for children to be raised in a home with a mom and a dad. She has taken what God has given her in her life, and she has turned it into something beautiful because it's better for a child to be taken out of an abusive situation and raised by a single godly Christian woman than for them to be in an abusive home with both a mom and a dad, both of whom are abusing her. So she is raising now 2 foster kids in church, giving them a completely different life than they would have had. And she's accomplishing good. And she's taking her lot in life, what God has planned for her. And she's not sitting around crying about this guy that's not there, crying about the kids she'll never have. She's making something out of her life, and she's chosen to do that. And that impresses me. I like that. I like that characteristic in a person. So number 1, we choose our relationship with the Lord. We choose to walk with the Lord. We choose to have a relationship with him, and that we choose to pray. We choose to read the Bible. We choose to listen to the Bible. One thing that I've been incorporating back into my life, I did this a long time ago and I just kind of forgot about it, but I can either watch true crime while I'm getting ready, doing my hair and my makeup, which takes about 20 minutes a day, or I could listen to the Bible. You can listen to a lot of Bible in 20 minutes. Usually it's a few chapters. Now I'm in Hebrews right now. I think I just got through Hebrews. And so I just got through Hebrews. So those were a little bit longer chapters, but I still got in 2 or 3 chapters a day. Like, it goes really fast if you just listen to it. I'm not actually an auditory learner. I'm more of a visual learner, but if I can do both, if I can be reading the Bible along with listening at different times of the day, it really helps get it into my mind and my heart. And plus my kids are hearing Bible being played. So that's something that I've been incorporating every day. When I get ready, I'm listening to the Bible. I'm choosing to know God's word and to learn God's word. And you choose to follow his commandments. No one else can make that choice for you. Even when it comes to our children, we can't make that choice for them when they're adults. They have to choose that. And so as an adult, you have free will. You can choose to walk in the spirit, or you can choose to walk in the flesh. You can choose to love the Lord. You can choose to be a backslidden Christian. You can choose to have purity in your life, or you can choose to fill your life with things of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. We get to choose. We have free will. So we make these choices. Don't sit around complaining that you're not as close to God as now as you were 2 years ago. Do something about it. Get closer to the Lord. Incorporate Bible reading time. Incorporate listening to the Bible. If you're in the car and you haven't had a chance or a breather just to sit down or drink your coffee and listen to the Bible, read the Bible, have it playing in the car. That's good for your kids to hear. It's good for your ears to hear. You're filling your heart and your mind with the things of the Lord, and not, trashy sitcoms or comedies or whatever. There's a time and a place to just chill and watch a funny show. There's times and places for that. But overall, I try to do something that's going to help my heart, my mind, not be filling it with just worldly things. So you choose to walk with the Lord. Also, our walk with others. Okay, so we choose how we are going to be when it comes to other people in our life. And one thing that I have noticed with all the podcasts I've listened to, and I wrote a Facebook post about this, is the world really has a lack of kindness. And often mean girls, I like to call them mean girls. I know there's a movie called Mean Girls. I don't think I've ever seen it, but there are mean girls in life for sure. And oftentimes mean girls, they will disguise meanness in the name of just being honest. And I'm just an honest person and I'm just truthful. Well, I have definitely learned over the years to temper honesty with kindness, and also not to be honest and blunt with people unless they ask for it, unless they ask for advice. I was just asked at Jenna's baby shower this past Saturday how it feels to be a mother-in-law. And I was like, honestly, it's going very smoothly so far. I said, someone gave me really good advice, or they, not really good advice, but they told me a fact about their mother-in-law. They told me that their mother-in-law had told them, or just put it in practice, I can't remember, that she would never give advice unless asked for it. And I said, how helpful is that? And that's really changed my thinking when it comes to even ministry in general or relationships in general. Because how helpful would it be for all of us if we just stayed in our lane? And if someone says, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this problem? I'm asking your advice. They're giving you the green light to then be honest. But if you are just constantly going around and telling people off, giving them your advice because you're so wise in this area, you're so wise in that area, when they haven't even asked, it's going to come across in a mean way. So I think overall, if we would just stick to that rule of just giving advice when asked for, this is different with our kids. We're going to give advice with our kids no matter what. You have a different role when it comes to your kids. I'm not talking about with your children. I'm talking about even in your relationship with your husband. He doesn't always need to hear everything we're thinking about a given subject, especially if he's already made up his mind to do something. You can ask him, hey, can I give you my 2 cents? Can I give you my advice? But if you're just constantly, you're going to come across as a mean girl, first of all. And not everyone needs to hear our wisdom on every given subject. If they ask, that's one thing. But yes, if it's not solicited, don't say anything. I think that's a good rule of thumb. You choose kindness over being mean. You choose to be kind. And often a lot of calls that I'm listening to, there's a lack of kindness, whether it's a marriage call, whether it's a relationship call, a friendship call, relationship like as far as daughter and mother-in-laws, son and father-in-laws. Anytime someone's coming in, there's a lot of calling in. There's a lot of problems that stem from just unkindness, unsolicited advice, being mean, choosing judgment constantly over grace. That's the next one. You choose grace over judgment. There is a time and a place for judgment. There is a time and a place for a judgment, but not all the time. And sometimes people just need to be shown grace. God shows us grace every day of our life. We fall, we mess up. None of us are perfect. So then why with our own children, with our husband, with our friends, with our fellow church members, do we constantly just judge? And another thing that I've noticed in this generation that you have to be careful about is there's a time and a place for boundaries. Sometimes you need to set boundaries with people. You need to tell people no. You need to tell people, I can't do this right now. You need to tell people, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Can we maybe reframe this, or can we start over? There's a time and a place, but you have to be careful that in setting boundaries, you're not overstepping boundaries by being harsh or critical or mean, or just ignoring how something would make someone feel. We are in charge of how we treat other people. We're not in charge of how they treat us, but we are in charge of our reaction to how they treat us. So you choose grace over judgment. You choose to forgive or hold grudges. No one else can forgive you for you. And oftentimes forgiveness is more for you than the other person, because I've often heard it said that when you carry around a grudge, the sight of someone just irritates you or makes you upset or makes you mad. When you're carrying around that grudge, you're carrying around a burden that's not yours to bear. And when you release that to the Lord and you say, I need to forgive this person, not even so much for them, but for me. I need to find forgiveness in my heart for this person. And you just release that. And releasing that to the Lord means you don't think about it. You are gracious when they're around. You don't try to do things to hurt them. You don't lash out. That's what I'm talking about releasing. When you release that to the Lord, you find peace. It's not so much for that person. It's you're finding peace. So you choose to be friendly or to have no friends. That's your choice. I have a need for close friendships in my life, and I have a need for close female friendships in my life. And I know this is maybe, no, I don't know. It's because I've chosen to have friends. I know that this is very rare in today's day and age, but I have a friendship now with Erica, and many of you who follow me on Facebook see what I've written about her, but we have been friends for almost going on 4 decades. And I know that's extremely rare, but we have chosen to overlook the areas that were different. And we have chosen, I would say we've had hard conversations in the fact that we're both coming from different places and we both have different opinions and different beliefs about something. But at the end of the day, she accepts me for who I am and I accept her for who she is. I have another very, very close friend, and we've become close through texting and messaging. And, one of my closest friends, and that's Amanda in Canada. We live in different countries, but that friendship is very important to both of us. And then I've got the other friend I was super close to that died, Kelly. And so I've been so blessed with super, super deep, close friendships in my life, but that is high on the priority list for me. So with that comes everything with a deep friendship, forgiveness, accepting each other for who you are. Iron sharpeneth iron, right? But only when they ask for it, and saying truth in a kind way. Sometimes I need to speak truth, but I choose how I'm going to phrase that, so all of my life, I have been, I'm very focused on making things happen that I want, that are important to me. And close friendships are one of those things. Another thing is it takes a lot for me to burn the bridges with a friendship, because first of all, I don't have it in my heart to be mean to someone. Second of all, it hurts me very deeply if a friendship ever cools off. And so knowing that, sometimes I hang on to things more than I probably should. And I've seen throughout my life that there are different friendships there through different seasons. And God has put people in my life to help me through certain valleys in my life. And while we might tend to go our separate ways eventually, I feel good knowing that God put them in my life for a certain reason, a certain time. So, but then I have those friendships that have lasted almost my entire life. Eric and I became friends when we were 12, and it's still going strong, but we make time for each other. We make that a priority. We know it's like till death do us part, right? So it's very important to us. So you choose to be friendly. I have gotten questions from women. Why don't I have any friends? And then when you start questioning, why don't you have any friends? You start undigging a lot of stuff. A lot of times it's because they don't want to put themselves out there, because you are putting yourself in a vulnerable place when you become friends with someone. Even in today's day and age, when you're doing it through electronics, because if that person is not a good person, they will take things that you have told them in confidence and use it against you. And that just comes down to them being a pathetic person, pathetic human being. One thing that I have determined in my own life in this age of electronic communications is I'm shocked and disgusted by the amount of people who will use private conversations against another person when they finally turn against them, or they have a falling out. And even though I have had relationships over the years that have cooled, and I wouldn't even consider us friends anymore. Even this is people from my old church, people from the years past. I would never take something that was told me in confidence and use that against them or publicize it. The amount of people publicizing private conversations, it disgusts me. And first of all, I don't have it in me to be mean and do that to someone, but I trust people and I'm vulnerable with people, and I trust that they're going to treat me the same way I would treat them. And so I don't screenshot private conversations and send them around. I, don't go through my messages and try to look for dirt that I can expose them. That's such a wicked attitude to have about people. I don't see a reprobate hiding behind every corner. In order to be close to people, sometimes you have to become vulnerable. And if I get hurt, I get hurt. So be it. But I refuse to do that to other people, if that makes sense. Once again, I can't control how other people treat me, but I can control how I respond or how I, treat other people. So just keep that in mind. So let's talk about marriage. Living life to the fullest when it comes to marriage. You choose how your marriage is going to be. Okay, so you choose how you're going to treat your husband. No one else chooses this for you. You choose to have a physical relationship with him or not to. I do think that this area of physical relationship is, like, teaching on it is very, very lacking. And it seems to be a taboo subject in the Baptist world. And I think that older women that have been married for a couple decades, like myself, for almost a quarter of a century, I think that we can teach younger women in a way where it's not graphic or in detail or overstepping boundaries or even giving personal information. I have always been open on the show about how you alone are the only one that is supposed to be fulfilling your husband's needs. So you need to be very serious about that without going into detail about that private relationship. I do think that relationship needs to be private. And you need to, don't tell honeymoon stories. Don't tell wedding night stories. Don't tell stories that happened last week. I've often found that people that are putting on a show when it comes to telling all their friends about their personal private life with their husband, it's a need to convince, it's a need to persuade. And oftentimes they do it for the shock factor. And I think it's gross. So I do think that your personal life needs to be kept personal. However, I do believe in the importance of the physical relationship. There is an intimacy that is created when you have a good physical relationship with your husband that you can't find anywhere else. And I believe God designed the marriage bed to bring about that intimacy, to bring about that closeness that you can't get anywhere else. You're not supposed to get anywhere else except for marriage. And so because it is such a sacred part of your life and it should be kept private and it should only be between you and your husband, there's a specialness in that. And there's that intimacy that no one else on the earth can have. And so I do believe that it's super important. You decide if you're going to make time for that with your husband. You decide, schedule it in if you need to, go to bed earlier if you need to, put the kids to bed earlier if you need to. Oftentimes there's a lot of women who focus so much on their children, their husband gets pushed off to the side. And where, yes, sometimes there's going to be seasons, we're going to have newborn seasons, we're going to have postpartum seasons, we're going to have seasons where the baby is colicky, and it needs to be kind of put on the back burner for a while. That won't last very long. And oftentimes it becomes a habit with women. It's just easier to not have to think about your husband when you have little kids pawing at you all day and in your personal space. And, but your husband is important too. And long after those kids are gone, it's going to be just your husband. And so you still need to put the time and effort into that relationship, especially the physical relationship, because most red-blooded men, they do need that. They yearn for that. In fact, most of the men callers that are calling in, to the podcast that I listen to, they're having a problem with their wife not reciprocating physical affection, not wanting physical affection. She couldn't care less about it. And they're frustrated because they're like, I'm trying to explain to my wife how important this is to me, and she's just not getting it. What do I do? How do I remedy this or whatever? So that is a very, very important part in most red-blooded males' lives. Now, there are some that have lower testosterone and it's not. But those stories are a lot more rare. Most of the time, typically, men need that. Men need that physical affection. They need that physical relationship. So you choose the words that come out of your mouth to them. No one made you say that. No one made you feel like, made you make him feel this big. You chose to do that. You choose to put in the time and effort. You choose to really see and hear your husband. Don't let the lady at work listen to his stories. I don't care if you feel like his work stories are boring. Listen to them. You would want him to listen to your story about potty training the 2-year-old. I'm sure our husbands don't really get a thrill out of listening to that, but we need them to, right? So they do it. So listen to his work story. Listen to his corny jokes, listen to what interests him. Right now, what interests my husband is a lot on the political scene, Israel, stuff like that. I have not. That is like, I don't care about that. But I know it's important to him. So I'll ask him questions and I'll listen and I'll try to respond with intellectual conversation when it comes to this, even though I really don't know what he's talking about. I know more now because I'm trying to learn about it. But I try to get interested in what he's interested in. We try to find hobbies together. We try to do things together because I made up my mind a long time ago when I said I do, that this was for life and we were going to build a beautiful life together. So I'm putting my all into it. I'm putting the time and effort. I'm choosing to really see and hear him. You choose to stay with your husband day in and day out. You choose to put the work in. No one else can choose that for you, but take it very seriously. I do believe in till death do us part. And it's a sad reality that most of us don't really know each other, don't know our husbands. We don't know until we get married. We don't know until we have that ring on our finger. And that's why you have to be so careful before you walk down that marriage altar. My kids are late bloomers. Most of them are getting married. They're not getting married at 18. They're not getting married at 17. And I'm totally fine with that because I say late bloomers, but they're still like early compared to the world's timeline, I guess. Most of them got married about 22 is about the average age for my kids. And I am not one of these parents that pushes them into it at 17, 18 years old, because at 17 and 18, you don't even know who you are. You have no idea what your core beliefs are. Those kind of start developing. I'm just now seeing a lot of those come out in my oldest son, who is 23. I'm just now seeing them emerge, and I love it because it's all good stuff, but I'm just now seeing all of that come to the surface. And we were 20 and we really grew up together. We really developed our core beliefs and, our standards and our convictions in our early 20s till we were about 30. Now that we're 44, we're very set in those, and I don't see them changing anytime soon. But, every family is going to be different. Every kid's going to be different, but you just really need to train your kids that marriage is for life. And so you have to be extremely careful about who you marry. You have to be extremely careful. You have to know their character. You have to know their personality. You have to know if they're given to fits of rage or not. You have to see them react to different situations. And you choose to build a life together. You do. You're choosing to build a life together, or you can tear it down with your actions. Those actions could be infidelity. They could be your tongue. They could be the way that you treat him, the way that you treat him to your kids. If you're putting the effort in, if you're, whatever it is. So you choose to fall in love with your husband every single day. You make that choice. You oftentimes, if you have an argument or something at night, my husband and I have learned, just go to sleep. We're going to go to sleep and we'll figure this out in the morning. We're going to be married tomorrow. We're going to be married the next day. We're going to be married next week. So we'll work through this problem. We'll figure it out. And that's my mindset now. So now I'm able to I don't have to work through this right now. Let's go to sleep. Let's get a good night's sleep. We'll tackle this again tomorrow. And I've even heard some husband and wives that are in a very healthy relationship. The husband will ask the wife or tell the wife, listen, it's 11 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock at night. I don't think anything is going to get accomplished. We're just going to get more and more upset. I promise you, we will revisit this tomorrow after we've had a full night's sleep. And the wife, if she's mature, should be able to say, you're right, let's go to sleep. So I've really come far in this area since I was a young bride. I was given the toxic advice that you never go to sleep angry at each other. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm taking this advice because this is what I was told. In my mind, we had to work through it. And it would be 2 a.m. and nothing good comes at 2 a.m. if you're trying to work through very, very deep things. You just need to go to sleep and work through it the next day. So that's my advice. Other couples, maybe it works for you, but it never worked for me because my husband hated waking up feeling like he'd been run through the ringer. He'd only gotten 3 hours of sleep. That was not healthy for either of us. So just telling you what worked for me. Might be different for you, but you choose to give him respect. You choose to give him respect. No one else can respect your husband like you. I've heard so many husbands say, I just want my wife to like me. And I'm telling you, if you choose to be miserable, you choose not to be content, you choose to be angry all the time, he is going to come home and he is going to wonder, does this have something to do with me? Why am I not making her happy? Why is she so upset? They're going to link it to you having a problem with them. Husbands want their wives to be happy. Novel concept. They want you to be happy. And when you're not, they're going to be scrambling, trying to think, what am I doing? Is it my fault? What am I not? I'm not enough. I'm not enough for her. I can't do enough. I can't be enough. And the way to have a happy husband is for you yourself to be happy. I'm telling you, you need to be happy first. And then he'll follow suit because most husbands just want their wives to be happy. I know mine does. So you choose to give him respect. No one else can choose that for you. And you are the most important person in the world to him to give him respect. He could have the accolades and the respect and the words thrown his way from every important figure in history, every important figure in the world, Elon Musk, President Trump. But if his own wife despises him, if his own wife doesn't respect him, those things mean nothing, because respect is something that every husband wants from his wife. You choose to build your husband up or you choose to tear him down. No one else is making that choice for you. You have the choice. You choose to nag him or you choose to just let it be. Tell him one time and let it be. You choose that. And I'm talking specifically to wives. This is not a channel for husbands. I'm not going to tell other men how to act or how to live. I'm doing my biblical role of the older women teaching the younger. I'm not teaching men. I'm not telling men how to act. So that's a different subject that my husband can tackle. He can give the men. And you know what? If anyone could tell someone how to be a good husband, it's my husband. He is living the life. He is doing everything he preaches. He treats me like a princess, treats me like the queen of the house. And he's also matured in this area. He's way better at this at 44 than he was at 20 when we got married. It's all a learning process. And I'm telling you, you're never going to have what we have 24 years in if every 3 years you're throwing your man to the side and finding a new one. Because men overall, unless they're just like some serial adulterer or serial abuser, men overall kind of have the same needs. They're kind of the same across the board. They have the same physical needs. They have the same desires. Obviously your husband can be a little different than mine and whatever, but men overall, pretty happy. They're pretty easy to keep happy. At least that's what I found. They're pretty easy to keep happy. So let's talk about your relationship with your kids. You choose how this is going to go. You choose how this is going to be. Stop playing the blame game. Just love your kids. That's all there is to it. Just love them. You choose to miss activities that they're involved in, or you choose to be there for them. Now, obviously, this is going to look a little different through the years because like now I have adult kids. So it kind of applies to me as, yes, I can miss something that they have planned, but I determined long ago that I was going to make sure my kids know that I love them, that I'm involved, that I'm there for them. And so I'm going to be at whatever they want me to be at, and if that means readjusting my schedule, I'm going to readjust my schedule, readjusting my life, I'm going to readjust my life. So you choose to miss activities or be there for them. You choose to put the phone down and really look at them and listen to them. You're their mom. You're there for them. You have the ability to really look into your child's eyes and listen to them. I know it's hard. I know life gets busy and we're just pulled this way and pulled that way and pulled all these different directions. But you as the mom have to choose to really look at your kids. You choose how you talk to your children. You choose to lose your temper or to stay cool with them, to keep your cool. You choose to make memories with them. This is all stuff. It's so simple, but I have known of so many women that just sit around complaining that their kids don't like them, their kids don't love them, they don't have a relationship with their kids. Well, let's go back 10 years. What were you doing 10 years ago? Were you investing your time in your kids? Were you raising your kids? Or were you involved in online drama? Were you watching television all day? Were you on your phone all day? Were you, doing 50 million side gigs and you didn't really have time to focus on your kids? Life is a series of choices. And if every single one of your kids want nothing to do with you, you need to re-examine how you're doing things with your kids, because you've chosen that. You've chosen not to have a relationship with them. You've chosen for them to walk away. You've chosen not to put the time and effort in. And I'm not even talking about even when they're growing up, you've chosen not to reconcile. You've chosen not to ask for forgiveness. You've chosen not to work on yourself so that you can be a better mom for them, even if they're adults. You choose to have the relationship or not with your kids. You choose to forgive and you choose to ask for forgiveness. You choose to have the hard conversations or to ignore all the problems to where they get to where they just cut you off completely. You have chosen that. You choose that. No one else. Okay, so when it comes to your kids, you can choose, even if you have a fractured relationship, you can do your part. Now, obviously, they also have a choice at the end of the day. And if they choose not to forgive you and they choose to cut you off, that's their choice and you have to just live with it. But there's a lot of stuff that leads up to that. It's not like one day they just woke up and they're like, you know what? I really don't like my mom today. I'm going to cut her off for the rest of my life. No, there was a lot of little things that led up to that point. Fractured relationships don't just happen. It's one little thing this day. The next day, it's another little thing that, builds on that. And it keeps building and building and building and building. It's not just one single thing that fractures relationships. It's a lot of little things that build up to that big thing that fractures the relationship. So yes. And there's been certain things in my own life day where I have taken note, maybe something that hurt me. And this is what I've said often on the show. I choose not to become bitter about things. Instead, I choose to become better. So I take the painful things that have happened in my life, whether that's through my own relationship with my parents or my own relationship with friends or church members or hurts that have happened, from other people. I can either sit around complaining about it, bitter about it, talking about it, meditating on it, not bringing my thoughts under subjection, or I can take those things and decide that I will never treat other people that way. I won't treat my kids this way. I won't treat my friends this way. I won't treat my church members this way. And so I've taken all of the bad things that have happened in my life and I've determined that I'm going to be the opposite of those things. And so this keeps an open relationship. Yeah, there might have been hurts in my childhood, but I can look back now and understand where those hurts came from. They came from a place of hurt. They came from an unhealed 26-year-old becoming a mom, and not having a clue, being a first generation Christian, not having a clue how this Christian life went. I look back and I can see the root of things and understand that it wasn't necessarily anger being directed at me. It was someone that was hurting me. And I'm not talking about sexual abuse. I'm not talking about physical abuse. I'm just talking about maybe emotional needs that weren't met or different situations I can look back in my life and yeah, that really hurt me. That really hurt my feelings. Instead of becoming bitter about that, I've used those things in my life and in my own kids' relationships, my relationship with my kids, my relationship with my husband, I've determined I'm going to do things differently. So I think if you have that mindset, it definitely helps. Definitely helps. Okay, so let's talk about choosing just kind of, your needs being met or basically your overall outlook on life. You choose to be content or discontent. What are you known of? If you say, okay, I want to have this hard conversation with my friend, and you sit down with your friend and you say, when you think of me, do you think of someone that complains or someone that's joyful? When you think of me, do you think of someone that's content or discontent? When you think of me, do you think of someone who's happy or unhappy? And then say, be honest. Be honest. I want to know. And then don't get mad when they're honest with you. Don't get mad and take what they said and work on those things. You know, if you are known as a discontent person, resolve that you are going to be content. If you are known as a complaining person, resolve that you're not going to complain. Just keep your mouth in check. When words come out of my mouth, they're going to be words to bless others, not to bring others down. I'm going to be a fountain, not a drain. You know, you choose to be lazy or to work hard. You choose if you want extra income or not. Obviously, your husband has a choice in that too. But if he's okay with it or not, you know, then go off of that. You choose what your hobbies will be. You know, all the time I'm told this all the time, like this just magically happened, right? So like, I'm born and I'm this golden child and God just like bestows me with all these blessings that no one in the world gets. No one. I was just lucky. Like I just happened upon this. Like I found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? I just stumbled across it. I'm told all the time, man, I wish I could do the things you do. Man, I wish I had the life that you had. You know, man, then do it. Go do it. You know what? Go make friends. Do you know how many like women's retreats and conferences we go to and just all the meetings, the special meetings we do, all the camps I go to? Everyone that follows me on Facebook has seen it. I do those things because friendship is important to me. Connecting with other believers is important to me. I do those things because that's a priority in my life. If you want those things, then do them. It's not rocket science. And I just, you know, I wish that, you know, I had the marriage you had. Then there's choices involved in that. Okay. My husband and I were both pure when we got married. We chose to be pure until we got married. My husband and I have remained faithful to each other. We have chosen to be faithful to each other, forsaking all others, clinging to each other. We have chosen to fall in love with each other through all the hard days and the nitty-gritty days and the good days and the valleys and the mountaintops. We have chosen that. I didn't get a marriage going on almost a quarter of a century by chance. It didn't just fall into my lap. There were choices along the way. And if you choose to marry and divorce, marry and divorce, marry and divorce, marry and commit adultery, you know, marry and not put the time and effort into your marriage, your outcome is going to be a lot different than my outcome. It didn't just magically happen to me. Life doesn't just magically happen. There are choices along the way. You have to choose different things. And I'm so sick of seeing online all these men who their women have put up with adulterous relationship after adulterous relationship after adulterous relationship, and they've been physically beat down, and they finally had enough, and they decide that they're going to get help, and then the husband's all over online just being the victim, always the victim. No, he chose that. He chose to commit adultery on his wife. He chose all these adulterous relationships, and he just expected his wife to put up with it. No, life is full of choices. You're not going to have a marriage like mine if you make certain choices with your own marriage. So rant over. I'm kind of getting sick of like being told, man, I just wish I had what you had. Then work towards it. You know, you can. Anyone can. I'm not this special magical unicorn that just, no, I've had hard times in my life, but I've had to make choices. I've had to make choices with my life. And that's why I am where I am today. You know, you choose to be happy or miserable. There's been really bad times in my life. And I'm going to say, like, I've known a lot of women that if they were, I don't know, if they had the difficulties in their life and even the financial hardships and the loss and things that I've gone through, they could sit around complaining about it. They could cry about it. And people would probably feel sorry for them. But that's not how I want to live my life. I don't want people sitting around pitying me, feeling sorry for me. No, I'm going to move on. I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to just, you know, leave things in God's hands that need to be left in God's hands. And I'm going to be happy. If there's something in life that I'm doing, I'm going to enjoy doing it. I'm going to have fun doing it. You know, you choose to make tough choices. You choose to do the hard things in life. So be the change in your life. Don't sit around talking about it. If your marriage is miserable, change it. Change it. Do whatever is in your power to change it. Be the wife that he needs you to be. You can't control his choices in the end. You can't. But you can make the best with what you're given. You don't have to sit around complaining. You don't have to sit around nagging. You don't have to sit around tearing him down with your words. You don't have to you don't have to separate, make him go in a different bedroom. You don't have to cut off the physical relationship. You choose if your marriage is happy or if your marriage is miserable. Like I said, and I'm not talking about the extreme cases like where this guy is committing adultery with 100 people and, bringing home STDs and slapping you down and physically abusing you and you're in fear for your life and he's hurting your children. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the normal man, okay? The normal husband. Normal husbands just want their wives to be happy. And we have the ability to be happy. He doesn't have the ability to be happy for us. We have the ability. If you don't have friends, make them. Make friends. Make friends. With all the ways that we have to connect nowadays, it is so easy to make friends. Make them. If you want to do more with your life, do it. Write a book. Write a song. Sing a song. Record a song. Do a podcast. Whatever it is, do it. Don't sit around talking about it. Do it. If your relationship with your kids is off, mend it. Ask for forgiveness. Do better. Be better. Be self-aware. Know when there's problems. Know when you're the issue. Know that, okay, if every kid is walking away from me and is estranged from me, I might be part of the problem. Maybe, just maybe, throwing that out there. If you have estranged friendships, fix them. If they're fixable, if you both had the same goals, I know with my friendships, if there's an issue, we're going to deal with it and move on. Like we're going to deal with it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk our way through it. We're going to have a hard conversation. If we have to have a hard conversation, I'm going to ask for forgiveness if I need to, and we're going to move on. If you're stuck in a rut of life, fix it. If you don't like your situation, resolve that. If your life is in chaos, get out of chaos. I'm not giving you any excuses. Don't be a person who just throws out excuses. Everyone has excuses. It's what you do with it. You choose to be where you are right now. So just adjust your mindset. Here are some things, lastly, that you can adjust your mindset with. Do not compare your life to other people. Don't compare your life to someone who's not raising kids anymore. They're going to be able to travel a little bit more than you. They're going to be able to do a lot more things. But you know what? I bet if they looked at you with those little kids who are climbing in your lap and snuggling with you and who think you are the best thing ever and who adore you and love you, they would tell you, I miss that. Like, I really miss that. I was just telling my husband today or last night, I love, like we've been raised, he was telling me, he's like, do you know that in today's day and age, people who are our age are just, they have little kids, like they just started having kids in their early 40s. I was like, yeah, which is crazy because we're about to become grandparents. But I told him, I said, I love it this way though. I've come to peace with the fact that I'm most likely done having kids. And I'm 44 now. I'm going through perimenopause. All these things are happening. And I am so happy with my 8. And I told him, I said, you know me, I love having kids. I've loved having them. I mean, I have 8. So, but I've come to peace with the fact that I'm most likely done. And I said, but here's the cool thing. We're going right from, we're not even done with car seats yet. And we're about to have a grandson in a few weeks. So we're going right into having grandkids. And I said, we're never going to lack having a little kid around because little kids are the best. Babies are the best. I love the things they say. They're hilarious. They're a lot of work, but they're awesome. So I said, we're never going to not have a little kid in our home. And that's so awesome to me because I'm sure, and I told him too, one of the things I want to do it, the more grandkids that we have, eventually I want to do what's called cousin camp once a year in the summer. And I'm going to take a week and we're just going to have fun with the grandkids. They're going to come stay at our house and we're going to have fun with them. I cannot wait till then. So we're going to be intentional about it, but I love that that's my life, and I could sit around like the lady that I talked about at the beginning. I've been raising kids for a long time. And I have a 4-year-old, so I'm going to be 60 before we're empty nesters. I'm going to be 60. And I could sit around thinking, oh, I could do so much more with my life. No, I can't. I'm doing what I want to do with my life. I'm raising my kids. I'm staying home with them. I'm homeschooling them. I'm teaching 40 students piano. That's going to help them for the rest of their lives. I'm so glad my parents gave me lessons, music lessons, because I use it every single day of my life. I am investing in other women. I'm helping other women. I have this podcast and I have people who email me, and I'm traveling, I'm living, I have friends, I'm doing everything I want to do while raising my kids. So I'm not going to sit around, oh, I wish I could do it. No, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure out a way. I'm not going to sit around coming up with reasons why I can't. I'm going to do it. Choose whatever state you are in to be happy. You choose to be happy. No one else can choose that for you. Happiness is something that comes from the inside. It's something that lights up your eyes when you smile. It's a spirit that you have about you. Yes, you're going to be stressed out, and yes, there's going to be hard days, but you choose to exude happiness through those times. No one else can choose that for you. Stop complaining about your life. Stop complaining about it. Most people don't even want to hear, because everyone's life is hard. My life is hard. Your life is hard. Everyone's life is hard. But you choose what you're going to be known as. You choose if people are going to see you as a light, someone who lights up the room, someone who brings a smile to their face, or someone who's a Debbie Downer. Oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. This isn't right. This isn't right. This is wrong again in my house. This broke down. What are you known as? Are you known as someone who lights up the room? Someone who's a smile on your face, or someone who's just constantly down about things? Determine that whatever you're going to do, you're going to enjoy it. This has changed my life. I used to have weeks where I had to do something out of duty, whether that was being a chaperone for a teen camp or some activity or whatever. And I was miserable. And I got to the point where I'm like, this is stupid. I'm going to do this. I'm required to do this for whatever reason. Even when it comes to doing dishes or doing laundry or whatever it is, I'm going to have to do this. But you know what? I might as well enjoy it while I'm doing it. So I've determined that whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to enjoy, whether that's being a chaperone for some function, whether that's helping out in the kitchen at some event, whether that's, I don't know, whatever it is, I'm going to enjoy it. Spend your life in happiness, not misery. No one else can decide that for you. If your kids are driving you nuts at home, figure out why, and if you can change it, change it. You control the level of chaos that goes on in your home. You do. You really do. You're the person steering the ship of the home. So if your house is completely chaotic and out of control and a mess and crazy and you can't stand it, change it. Get on a schedule, get your house clean, enlist help if you need to. Stop sitting around complaining about it and do something about it. Stop bemoaning what could be and just enjoy what is. Just rest in the life that you have. Whatever lot God has given you, enjoy it. Be at peace with it. If he's given you no children, enjoy it. If he's given you 12 children, enjoy it. If he's given you one child, enjoy it. If he's given you a great husband, enjoy it. If he's given you a mediocre husband, enjoy him. Remember why you fell in love with him. You picked him. You picked him. Remember why you fell in love with him and work on those things. Build up his strengths. Encourage him where he's weak. Be that support to him. Be the one who just loves him and just thinks he hung the moon. And he needs that. He needs that from you. Be a person of action. Don't sit around complaining. Just do it. What do you want in life? Do it. And I'm talking to you how I would talk to my kids. What do you want? What do you want? So many husbands are like, what do you want? My husband doesn't have that problem with me because I tell him what I want and then we do it. So if I want a date, I tell him. If I need physical affection, I tell him. If I want to go on a trip with him, I tell him and we do it. Like I said, he treats me like a princess. My wish is his command. And I'm not ordering him around, but you know what? He loves to see me happy. And so if he wants me to go on a hike with him, we do it. If he needs physical affection, I give that to him. If he needs more of my time, I give that to him. So it's the same. It works both ways. We're both giving 100%. We're both trying to make the other person happy. So, be intentional about what you want in your life. Don't just, if your husband asks you, what do you want? I don't know. Tell him. Do you even know? Do you even know what you want? Do you even know? Ask yourself that. Do I even know? Do I know what I want? You know, I've always had clear-cut goals and paths that I wanted to take, and I've done that. I haven't sat around talking about it. I've done that. I wanted to marry someone who was pure, and I wanted to stay pure, so I did that. I want to remain faithful to my husband, so I am. I wanted to marry someone of character, so I waited until he came along. You know, whatever it is that I've tried to do, I've tried to be intentional about it. I want to raise godly children. So I've done that. I wanted to invest myself in my children. So I've done that. You know, I've been intentional about what I wanted in life. I'm a person of action. If I don't like something, I fix it. If I decide to do something, I'm going to enjoy it. We have choices that we make in life. If I feel like, okay, this situation will put me where I'm completely miserable, I'm not going to do it. But then I've found ways to accommodate other things, like being the counselor at camp. You're in very rough accommodations. So I tell people all the time, I can either be here and be miserable, or I can be here and enjoy myself. So you know what I do? I bring my fan, I bring my air mattress, I bring my Keurig, I bring my coffee, I bring my energy drinks, and I'm happy, you know? And if I didn't have those things, yes, I would figure out a way to be happy. But having the small pleasures in life makes things a lot happier. And if it's not too big of a pain, I'm just going to do it. So do what you have to do. I don't have time to be miserable. I don't have time to complain. Life is hard, but life is also beautiful. I am determined to live my life, this one life I have, with zero regrets. At the end of my life, I want to look back and say, I lived life to the fullest. And I have seen so many situations pop up, and I'm just like, they have one life. One life. We have one life to live. Why are they choosing to live it this way? They have one life to live. Why are they choosing to have no relationship with their kids, no relationship with their grandkids? One life. We have one life to live. We have one life to live. Why are they choosing to have a horrible marriage? We have one life to live. Why are they choosing to have no friends? We have one life to live. Why are they choosing not to be in church and not to be following God and not to be following his commandments and not to loving him, not to love him with their whole heart? They have one life to live. Ladies, you have one life to live. Be intentional about the life that you live. And I might have come across a little passionate in this episode. I'm sorry if my passion scares you. I do tend to scare people sometimes, but I am very passionate about this subject because I am not a person that sits around complaining. I'm a person that does something about it. If I see something in my life that's lacking, I fix it. I do something about it. I want to have a good marriage. I want to have good friendships. I want to have good relationships with my kids and my in-law kids and my grandkids. So I am being very intentional about it. And I'm going to do things in my life in order to have a good outcome. And you've got to be intentional. You have one life to live. You have one life. And you have got to decide how you're going to live that out. And you've got to decide that you're going to live it with no regrets. And I have found the happiest life, the best life, is a life following God, loving him, loving our husbands, and investing in that relationship, because that is a huge part of your life. Having a good marriage is a huge part of your life. Loving your kids and loving them well. And then everything else just kind of falls into place. And I'm literally living the dream. I'm living what I was intentional about 24 years ago. And I know, you know what, if you messed up, and, you know, be intentional from here on out. Say, okay, I'm going to change things. I'm going to change how I talk to my husband. I'm going to change how I react to things that he says. I'm going to change how I treat him. I'm going to change how I've viewed our physical relationship. I'm going to change the way I talk to my kids. I'm going to change the way that I run the home. I'm going to change. You can change. Even if you weren't raised that way, you can change. So I will be here encouraging you every step of the way, because I love seeing women take matters into their own hands when it comes to their life and their happiness and their level of contentment. And they decide, I am going, and they purpose. You know, Daniel purposed in his heart. Have a purpose in your heart. I am going to do this in my life. I want this kind of outcome. And hurts are going to come along the way. God sometimes has things, deaths and losses and financial storms and different things like that. And we just have to ride those seasons out. But at the end of the day, you get to decide if you're content. You get to decide if you're joyful. You get to decide if you're happy or miserable. And one life, ladies. We have one life to live. So choose wisely. And I hope this was a help. Like I said, I'm very passionate about this subject. And also too, I'm kind of tired of hearing this whole, oh, how easy it must be for you having all these things handed to you. None of this was handed to me. This is all, my life is a series of choices, and my life is me being very intentional about how I do things and how I live my life, and me investing in different areas of my life. It's all been very intentional. It's not been by accident. It's not been by design. I'm not this golden unicorn that it just fell in my lap. No. And anyone can have what I have, because you're all capable of it. It's all comes down to choices and determining and being very intentional about the life that you live. So, yep, that's it for this week. And yeah, just don't come away from this thinking like, oh, I could never, because you can, because I'm no one special. I'm not at all. I am just, in Alabama 7 over here, doing her best for the Lord, normal intellect, just someone who's very passionate about the things that are important to me. And loving God, loving your husband, and loving your kids is super important to me. It's what I'm passionate about. So if I could pass that on, that's what I'm going to do. So I hope you all have a great week. Go love your husband, love your kids, love the Lord, have a relationship with him, make good choices. And we will see you next week. Oh, in 2 weeks, I'm going to have special guest, my friend Jen Bay. She has lost a ton of weight in this last year, and she's become very healthy. And we're going to have an episode on health and losing weight, and why it's good for us as moms to be worried about our health and worried about our weight and things like that. So that's going to be a great episode. That's in a couple weeks, but Lord willing, we will see you next Monday. So have a great week.